Hello and welcome to Megan's Minute. I'm Megan Lavin, your host, the owner of the recipe site AllergyAwesomeness.com. And along with Allergic Living, we discuss topics that affect those living with food allergies. The topic for this month is overreacting versus underreacting and typical situations we find ourselves in when we're dealing with food allergies. Let's go over a few examples to help us see the differences between overreacting and underreacting. As with many things, parenting's sweet spot is generally in the middle. Overreacting and underreacting in front of our children regarding food allergies can actually heighten anxiety or just leave them to process things on their own, neither of which we want. It can be difficult to always respond in the right way. Trust me, I get it. Remember, there's nothing wrong with just taking a moment or even telling your child you need to think about the situation and get back to them so that way you have time to process what's going on or even calm down from being triggered, because it can definitely be triggering or upsetting. A calm parent is one that is not reactive, and that's the safest place for your kids, even though it's easier said than done. I've been guilty too. And worst case scenario, you blow it. You totally over or underreact. Parenting isn't always about getting it perfectly. You can go back and readdress things with your kids and apologize. Real learning for your children can still take place when they see, hey, even adults mess up, but what's important is they own it and they repair it or fix it. Here is an example of overreacting. So let's say your kid comes home from school, says their teacher served unsafe treats because they hit their reading goal. After they tell you this would be an overreacting expectation. You'd say something like, your teacher's a joke, and explode. How dare they do that when they know you have food allergies? Teacher clearly doesn't care about you or your safety. I am going to march down there and give them a piece of my mind. I over-dramatize it a little bit, but you get the point. Now, it's natural to feel upset and you want to take it personally. However, the over-the-top attitude you're displaying can actually make your child feel helpless, which is not what you want or intended. It can make them feel as if it's up to you, the parent, to fix them for them, instead of empowering them to be part of the solution. Did you notice the parent didn't even ask how the child felt? What if the child was actually okay with it because their teacher served them another snack, but you didn't even let them get that out because you just jumped all over it? Or what if the child is older and they would rather not have you approach the teacher? Asking questions really helps you just dig for those solutions instead of thinking you just gotta like mama bear it, which is usually your first inclination, so you gotta pause, you gotta breathe. You could also ask clarifying questions to your child like, oh, what was the treat? Or how did you feel when the treat was served? Or did the teacher address it with you before or after? Or what do you think we should do about it? Involve them in the process. It's easy to assume the worst and think, the teacher just doesn't care. Oftentimes, teachers are overburdened, they're burned out. We had this happen once. The teacher had served pizza, and which is crazy because she was usually very on the ball. She just dropped the ball that time. My son came home crying because he felt left out, and I was at first furious. It took me time to calm down, and then once I calmed down, I wrote her to let her know how it had affected my son in a very calm, non-accusing manner. I'm glad I did because she was so responsive. She apologized, she said she felt terrible, and she was so glad we told her. She ended up buying my son a safe pizza all for himself to make up for it. I didn't even have to tell her, like, make it right or threaten her. So you don't have to do those tactics to get good solutions. Once I let her know how it affected my son, she was all about coming up with the answers and how to fix it all on her own. I think most of the time people want to get it right, and most of the time they will. And if we are honest and we communicate our feelings and can ask them calmly so they're not on the defensive, it works out. Just think about that teacher. If they feel attacked, they're not able to logically think of solutions because they're just in this defensive position. Here's the opposite example. Here's a solution where you could underreact. So your child comes home and says, Tommy won't have lunch with me because he only eats peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. You could shrug your child off thinking, oh, he has plenty of other friends, and tell him you'll be fine, thinking you don't want to coddle him, right? So instead, what you could do is we could ask your child once again questions, which helps them sort it out in their own minds. It helps them feel validated because they see, oh, mom's interested in my stories and how I feel. So you could ask them things like, how did that make you feel? And help them find solutions that are age appropriate. They could respond with something like, I don't want to be Tommy's friend anymore. To which you could redirect saying something like, oh, I get that Tommy hurt your feelings. I'm sorry. that is hard to feel that way. Maybe we can take a break from playing with Tommy for a few days and then see how we feel. Right? Overreacting, be like, that's right, we're never being friends with Tommy. But you never know, your child could surprise you and say, that's okay, I want to invite Peter to lunch anyways. Then we can play with Tommy at the park after. See? We can't really assume how they'll take it, whether it's this big, heartbreaking ordeal or whether it's no big deal, unless we ask them. The less we project our feelings and tell them how to feel, then the more it allows them to explore how they internally feel, the better. I'm certainly no pro at parenting. Don't think I always get it right. But the longer I parent and the more I talk to my best friend who's a therapist, so that works out great. Trust me, I call her nonstop. And I read those parenting books, the more I see giving our children the space to be heard and find their own solution helps them in the long term gain that confidence, helps them feel seen, which then in turn helps them feel loved and safe. So it's a win-win all around. Parenting is a crazy journey, especially when you add on top food allergies, which can feel like this social, emotional, and physical safety mess all rolled into one big challenge. But you can do this. If you find this is overwhelming and you feel like you're passing on your anxieties or you don't have the right scripts to use for when they come to you, I always recommend therapy. I've done therapy myself and it is such a great place to expand your toolbox so you can have more tools at your disposal. If you have other suggestions or personal experience, I'd love to hear them down below in the comments so we can all share it together. Best of luck, my allergy parent friends. Be sure to watch past Megan's Minute videos where we cover all sorts of things like birthday parties, the typical landmines, working with your school, large food gatherings, and more. You can find those videos on Allergic Living's IGTV or their YouTube channel. We'll see you next month.